Okay, so we're here today again. We're ready to start this Hopi Vase project, and as we can see, we have all of our pieces out in front of us, and we've got sorted everything out. We've cleaned it, and we've taken our before photo. So now we can. Today we're going to begin the process, and the first thing we do at this stage is what we call a dry assembly. And we'll put this piece completely assembled without any adhesives. We'll just use some adhesive tape to hold it together. There won't be any glue involved anywhere. And this will give us a chance to assess the damage and what problems we might have in the construction process. Because once we start to put bonding on these pieces, it all has to fit together in a way that it's a good idea to rehearse that if you can, so that you don't have one piece left that you can't fit in because you didn't do it all in the right order. And sometimes it's a matter of gluing a bunch of small pieces together, creating a larger piece, and so that in the end you are gluing together much larger sections of the piece. So at this stage, it's a rehearsal for what we're going to do after this. So how we're going to proceed to put this together. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. I have 30 plus pieces here to begin with, plus a little bag of granulated particles, and some of them are pretty small. But we just get going here and start sticking pieces together. So without further ado, I will start with the base. Here's the bottom of the vase, and it has the artist's signature on it. It might be an easy place to start to find a piece that connects to it. Or another way to begin is to begin with something with a pattern on it and go that route. I can also already see there are parts here that are curved. They're going to be part of the spout. I can see parts of the design that are going to fit together. So I'm just going to start taping things together. And as I tape them, I'm going to line these up. I'm going to look for problems that I might have to deal with when I bond these, as far as how well the pieces fit together and how much fill there might be to make the crack disappear. And we like to try to avoid damaging any original material on any of these pieces whenever we can avoid it. So I'm going to start looking for some of these pieces to go together. Okay, now the next stage of this process is we're going to start gluing together pieces that made up. We're going to end up making, instead of gluing a bunch of little parts all together, I'm going to start grouping them into larger segments. So we'll be able to glue two pieces together, and we'll set them aside and glue to dry, and then we'll work our way up there and create larger sections, and then from that we'll piece the whole thing together. So we begin by taking a couple of pieces, matching them up to the piece they'll go to, and we put some glue on that. Press the two pieces together, squeezing out the excess. Wiping it off. Make sure we get the glue away from the edges. Here we got a piece flaking off. We'll glue that down right now. This is close to the impact point, so there's some shattering and flaking in different directions. We'll deal with these as we find them. I need to make sure I get all the glue, the excess glue, away from the joints so that this seam will mate up with its set that aside to dry. And we'll take our next piece, do the same thing. Alright, so today we've got our larger pieces, segments glued together. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, this is 5 pieces glued together. Here's another 4 pieces glued together here. We have a nice smooth joint here. I run my fingernail across this joint so I can feel if there's a step there. This has to be perfectly aligned on every seam. So I check all this as I go. So today we're going to put this segment together here. Now, this is very close to the impact point, which was probably right here. And so, on the inside, we have a lot of chipping that was blasted out here where the large flakes have come off. So I need to glue this segment together, and after that dries, we'll come back and fill in these holes and all these voids and chips. And then we'll glue that segment to the next piece and fill in these other chips. So, today we're going to glue this segment on here. So, first thing we do is clean up the edges. Make sure we have no dust in here. Okay, it's day 3 and we're almost have a complete assembly here. We've put together larger and larger segments of this until I ended up with about 3 or 4 large pieces to assemble here. And if you look inside, where there was a lot of blasted away flakes and chipping on the inside, especially behind this really bad section right here. This is the impact point where the object actually hit the floor. And so you see there's a lot of missing material around these breaks. And because this is a soft bodied clay, because it's low fired, it's not really as strong as ceramic as a high fired ceramic like a porcelain or stoneware. So this is basically a clay body that's been low fired or fired at a low temperature. And so when it breaks, it can shatter catastrophically, as this one did. And so there was a lot of missing material, big chips inside here that had to be filled, so that they wouldn't be, so that for a strength issue, you create full body material where all the voids are filled, the chips are filled. Even though you won't be able to see the inside of the vase, that makes it much, much stronger. We use an epoxy putty to fill all of these. Everywhere you see this stuff, there was a lot of missing material. So now we've got it all glued together and we're in 2 pieces. I've gone ahead and assembled as much of this as I could and still be able to get to the inside, so that we can put these 2 pieces, these 2 final pieces together. And if I did all my work correctly, like as I've been saying the whole time we were assembling this, that it's very important as I'm assembling each small segment to get these seams very well aligned so that there's as close to perfect alignment as possible, because every single one of those that's off just a tiny little bit adds up to things being off a lot, or certain segments will not fit together properly, and then you have to make up the difference with fills, and it ends up being a lot more work, and you have a better looking product. I mean, there's less work to do. There's less ramping to do. You don't lose any more than you need to lose of the decoration on the outside. So now if I did everything correctly and well, this should essentially hinge together. Now we see there's undercuts here, and this edge goes in and out all the way around. So in order for this piece to fit in there, I've had to get all of my other preliminary work as perfect as possible. And if I did everything well, this overlap will go in here, and then this thing should just swing together, lock in place, as if it were a hinged doorway or something. I can get that piece underneath there, line all this up, and this should just essentially almost fall into place. And there it goes. It's as perfect as one could expect. There's almost no misalignment here on this seam. This is very, very, I'm not getting a step here at all. So, this is our test fit. And there it is. Now we'll see there's some pieces that still need to be filled. There's a missing piece here, a missing piece here, and a couple more down below. But this is pretty good alignment, and this is what our piece is going to look like when it's all done. Is that in the center? So, so now we're going to glue this top on here, and then from then on, you won't be able to see any of that damage down these necks. So there won't be any voids visible from the outside. So once this is glued together and the bonding agent sets, then we can begin to come and do the exterior work and fill all these voids, and we start filling all the little cracks and get all this nice and smooth. So that will be our next step, to begin to fill the outside. But so far, we've got a really good job. So now it's the next day, and we will keep going with our fills. We've done our preliminary fill on the major, deepest, biggest breaks, biggest chips. We filled them, backfilled them, not completely full, with a very strong epoxy putty we use for repairing ceramics. And now I'm going over with that a final fill with a finer epoxy putty to fill in all the fine lines and the smaller chips. And that's what we're doing today. I'm just going to go down, fill along each one of these cracks, fill it up real nice, get all the fine lines, fill the remaining portion of the biggest chips. Until we'll keep filling this. I'll do this same process that I'm doing right now. I will fill these cracks. The next day when it's cured, I come back and file and sand, make it smoother, and then we fill it again and repeat the process until All these lines are perfectly smooth. Now, I'm not quite done, but before I mix up another batch, I want to clean up around the lines that I just filled, and it'll save me a little bit of work. Actually, it'll save me a fair amount of work when I go to file that down, because I'll have less to work on. And it'll also, if I get it now, I will damage less of the decoration when I go to file and sand those fills down. So anything that I don't have to sand later, if I can wipe it off now with water, I will save doing damage to the existing decoration. So we just use a little bit of water on a Q-tip. This epoxy putty is water soluble. You can clean it up with water. So we've now done our first round of fills along all the break lines, and we're on our second round of fills. We'll go over these lines with fills and file and sand it down until it's perfectly smooth, just like body work doing body work on a car. And we'll do that 2 or 3 times, maybe 4, until this is perfectly smooth and there are no visible or discernible transition points along these cracks. And so we haven't taken down this fill yet, so we'll be doing that today, and we'll probably add another round of fills to that. Okay, so we're still working on the Hopi Vase project, and we're now at the point where all the fills have been leveled out and everything is perfectly smooth. We have a nice even integrated surface here. So everywhere where you see a lot of white,
I mean, there was a lot of missing material there. There's a piece here that was completely missing, a piece here completely gone. A lot of deep impact on this. This is a low-fired clay, which is very fragile. So if, in this case, here's the impact point. This is probably most likely the first piece that hit the ground when it fell. And so the inside, the outside and the inside of this has a lot of missing material. So the edges were just chipped away at every break line. And the inside, it was way worse. And so we had a lot of that around the bottom, some of that up around the neck and the shoulders of this piece. And other than that, it was in pretty large intact pieces once this caved in. And the whole top was one piece. But some additional cracks had appeared once we started working on it, and they became more evident, and some of them actually had to be filled. Some of them we could repair by putting an adhesive that would wick into the crack. But a piece like this has this kind of damage, when it's made out of this kind of material, low-fired clay, you'll get a lot of hidden interior fractures that go all through the clay. Not just straight through the wall, but lamination fissures within the wall of the clay. So you could have pieces flake off on the inside or the outside. We chased on as many of those as we could, and I think we got most of them. But you know, some of them might not appear until later as the crack spreads, and that happens through temperature changes and you know, just the piece living in the real world. So we're now at the point where we're going to start to decorate this piece. We need to bring back the original finish. So our goal here is to make this look like bring in the background area first. So there'll be several layers of different colors. This is the color of the body of the clay, as you can see in here. Inside the neck, maybe. That's the lightest color, and then up through these yellowish orange colors and down through a kind of a burnt orange color like we have here on this side, kind of a sunburn. These colors are not glazes. This piece is polished with a stone when it's in the greenware state, and then it's fired. And the color comes from the fire itself, the heat, the different temperatures, and sometimes even from the burning material that you use to make the fire, to heat the furnace. A lot of different things can affect that color. So our goal here is to bring back as much of the background as possible without, at the same time, keeping as much of the painted on design intact as possible. So we're going to recreate this background, and we're only going to paint over this design where we have to, so that we can bring it back intact. We try not to destroy any of the original work on a piece, so that you see as much of the original artist's hand as possible. So it's not my goal to repaint this or redecorate this. So you can see that well enough here in the lighting's pretty bad here, so I apologize. So that's our goal today. So that was to mix our first color. We're going to airbrush in something that matches this color right about in here. Then we'll bring it up to this color is a little bit different. And then we'll bring in this orange. Once we get all of that, then we'll bring back the decoration pattern. Okay. So the first thing we got to do is start color match some paint to do the job. Okay, so now we have the background color airbrushed in. We got the first layer. It's going to be 3 or 4 layers of different colors build up to achieve this look that we're on the original. So we're going to put a little airbrush on here today and see how far we get. Okay, so we are now on our next darker color, a little bit more orange in it. So now put in the second background color. Got to cover all the lighter shades, blending it in. So the next thing we'll do is we'll seal this down, protect it, and then tomorrow we'll come in and put in the darker sunburn color in the background, and that ought to finish up the background color. So today we're on our last, hopefully our last application of our background color. Bring this to blend this in. So we're working our way up to this sunburned color in here. So here we go. today we're going to start bringing in the color for this dark brown here. We've got our red on both sides brought in. We're going to do the outlining on all these lines, and then we're going to fill in where we need to, and we'll distress it so it looks like the original work. So today we'll begin outlining. Okay, so now we've done our outline around the brown areas, and we're now filling those in. So now here we have our Hopi vase completed. All the painting's been painted in. Detail work all done. This started out as 30 plus separate pieces, broken shards, and reassembled it, filled, painted, decorated. And now it's pretty difficult to tell this thing was ever broken.